All right, let's talk about one of the most intense 24-hour periods in recent memory. A day that brought the United States and Iran right to the very edge of war, and then somehow pulled them back. I mean, it was a day of just incredible uncertainty that had the whole world holding its breath.
And it all kicked off with this message from President Trump on social media. I mean, just read that. It was so direct, so alarming. It basically signaled that a huge military attack wasn't just on the table, it was probably happening. And that one post, it just set off a complete firestorm of fear and condemnation all over the world.
So, how did we get here? Let's break down how that one social media post started this incredibly dangerous countdown, bringing two major nations to the absolute brink of war.
And you really have to understand the nature of this threat, because this wasn't just about military targets. No, the plan was to launch a whole array of attacks on crucial civilian infrastructure. We're talking about things like power plants and bridges. I mean, targeting those. That would have had a truly devastating impact on everyday people.
And this timeline, wow, it just shows you how fast everything went downhill. It kicks off in the morning with the president's post. By the afternoon, you've got condemnation pouring in from everywhere. Allies, Congress, even the Pope. Then, as evening rolls around, an Iranian official makes this desperate plea, telling citizens to act as human shields. The initial 7 p.m. deadline comes and goes. The world is just watching, waiting for that final deadline at 8 p.m. You can just feel the pressure building, right? It was absolutely immense.
But then, just when it felt like war was a done deal, the whole situation takes this wild, dramatic turn. In a totally stunning reversal, a last-minute ceasefire is announced. And just like that, everyone is pulled back from the brink.
I mean, the timing on this is just unbelievable. We're talking less than 90 minutes to go before that final 8 p.m. deadline when President Trump announces on social media that a deal has been reached. It was a true 11th hour agreement that stopped the strikes in their tracks, and, you could almost hear this profound collective sigh of relief from around the world.
Okay, so what was actually in this deal? Well, the most important thing to remember is this was not permanent peace, not even close. It was a 2-week pause in the fighting between the US, Israel, and Iran. The whole idea was to use this short window to try and negotiate a permanent end to the conflict. But, and this is a big but, it came with a major condition from the US.
And the key player who made this all possible? That was Pakistan, acting as a mediator. They're the ones who presented this 10-point peace proposal from Iran to the United States. And President Trump's reaction was surprisingly positive. He called it a workable basis on which to negotiate. This diplomatic back channel, you guys, was absolutely essential to stopping the crisis from boiling over.
Okay, now this is where the details get really fascinating, especially when you look at the language around the Strait of Hormuz. So, this narrow waterway is a massive choke point for about a fifth of the world's oil. The US demanded its complete, immediate, and safe opening, but Iran's response was that safe passage will be possible. You see that? That subtle difference in wording is huge. Complete opening sounds like giving up control, right? But possible passage suggests that Iran still holds the keys, and that little difference created some crucial diplomatic wiggle room.
So this ceasefire didn't just stop a potential war, it sent these immediate shockwaves through the entire global economy. Let's take a look at how the markets and the world reacted to the news.
The reaction from the financial world was, well, instantaneous. The second the news broke that the strikes were off, stock futures just surged. It was such a clear signal of relief from the markets, which, as you know, really hate uncertainty.
And this right here really shows you the economic stakes. The price of oil, which is super sensitive to any conflict in the Middle East, had been climbing and climbing. But the second that ceasefire was announced, it quickly dropped back below that $100 a barrel mark. A huge sigh of relief, easing fears of a major global energy crisis.
But here's the catch, especially for everyday folks like you and me. Even though the price of crude oil dropped, that relief didn't exactly show up at the gas pump right away. Gas prices stayed stubbornly high. The national average was still up at $4.14 a gallon. And you can see, even in a place like Texas, prices were still hovering close to $4. All right, so the immediate crisis is over. But what happens next? Well, that brings us to the very fragile and deeply uncertain 2 weeks that now lie ahead. And you could see the uncertainty almost immediately. Iran's foreign minister came out and claimed that permanent talks would kick off on Friday in Pakistan, but the White House has not confirmed that at all. That disconnect right there just shows you how delicate and, frankly, how unaligned the situation still is.
And I really have to hammer this home because it's the most important takeaway. The deal that was struck is not a permanent solution. It is simply a temporary 2-week pause. All it really does is stop the clock. But that clock is still ticking, and the deadline to find a real, lasting solution is incredibly short.
And that leaves all of us with this huge, lingering question. With so much on the line, and with the two sides clearly not on the same page yet, is it actually possible to negotiate a lasting, permanent peace in just 2 weeks? The world gets to take a quick breath for sure, but the real, hard diplomatic work, that has only just begun.